Hey, I want to talk to you today about three strategies and simple facts that you need to think about to build your business. You know, we often get off track, we often get distracted, we often get pulled away from our focus. So today I want to talk about three strategies to your success that you need to implement immediately. So let's dive in on hashtag LoveMyDubb.
Hi, Scott Sullivan here. A lot of you know me as Sully. Dubb has doubled my business in the last year. You are about to go on a journey with Russ Johns. Welcome to I Love Dubb.
Well, the best thing about Dubb is the fact that I can make so many personal contacts with it, and it's so on point.
Why do I love Dubb? Let me count the ways. One, because my friend Russ Johns uses it and he knows things.
Rob Bott, good afternoon. I hope you're doing well.
What's going on, Russ? Happy to be here. How's everything on your end?
Well, I'm working on my focus, and I want to talk about three tips for success, because not only am I the number one fan of Dubb, I really love the opportunity to create things, build things, investigate, learn new stuff. And the downside of that, though, Rob, is the idea that we only have so much mental energy. We only have so much time to focus. And, we still need to run our lives, run our businesses, and implement some things that are actually going to return and pay the bills. And when I get distracted and I lose my focus, what happens is clients aren't getting their stuff done. I'm not working on my lead generation. I'm not following up with people. So today I wanted to dive in, be vulnerable, and talk about this subject that I think impacts all of us. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe everybody has their focus and I'm the only one. I don't think so. What are your thoughts?
Russ, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I wasn't focusing. What are we talking about? No, I'm kidding. That's the whole point. I think where you were talking, my computer dinged about 15 times. No, I think, we are the busiest probably we've ever been in the history of the world in terms of distractions. We are constantly, whether you work multiple jobs, one job, or, maybe you're in between jobs right now, that thing we have called a phone is just constantly at our attention. Whether it's, Instagram stories, Facebook, TikTok, anything on social media, anything, nothing work related, you're probably getting notifications about all the time. And then when it comes to work, channels like Slack and Microsoft Teams and other things like that, we're constantly getting knock messages and things like that. In fact, there's been a lot of movement towards really getting efficient with messaging in the workspace. In other words, if we're coworkers, Russ, I shouldn't be messaging you like 20 times a day. It should be efficient, knowing what the day is all about. And I'm messaging you just here and there with like topical things, and then you can do your thing from there. Because I feel like focus really is about not blocking out. Focus is about letting the things in and then letting them keep moving. It's like something Ruben always talks about with mindfulness. Don't block the things, let them come in, but make sure they go out the exit. They're not standing there to hang out because you've got things to do. So I think mindfulness is, from a big perspective, is something that you've got to have in terms of really being able to focus, because there's always going to be that next task. There's always going to be that next thing you have to do. So as soon as you're, writing that email or you're talking to a client, in your back of your mind, oh, I got another appointment after this, but it's after this. Focus on that.
Yeah. Anytime we can stay in the moment is going to help us. thinking about the past or the future is not productive, because we're right now, right here, right now is where we really need to focus our attention. And I think it's like you said, as I go through here and I'm in a meeting, or I'm on a call, or something's taking place, and all of a sudden that notification comes in. That's great advice, because my first inclination is to, okay, click on it and see who's banging on my door now. And we want to be responsive. However, the downside of that is there's occasion, and I just want people to think about this, occasionally when we respond quickly to people's requests or interruptions, then what we end up doing is training them to interrupt us even more, because they've got that response, that Pavlov's dog of, okay, I ring the bell and Russ is going to answer, is not necessarily productive for them, and it's not necessarily productive for me. So we want to make sure that we have to stay in the moment, focus our attention on what is taking place right now. And, I want to talk a little bit about how to structure focus as it relates to some of the things we're doing. And I know for myself, blocking time out. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, I can't worry about it. So I want to make sure that that's what works for me. Is there any tips that you have that work for you?
I always like using, I know it's kind of there are really three things I think that kind of relate to this. One is really focusing on the micro goals of the day. You always have the macro in mind, but the micro is what you're focusing on. Okay, I've got this call at this time. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about. Okay, my micro goal for today is blah, blah, blah. Because when you focus on the micros build up to the macro. So you don't need to go ahead and keep thinking ahead when you have something right in front of you. So number one would be get your micro goals set for the day. The second thing would be is to use a physical whiteboard or a digital whiteboard. And this kind of funny, but like type down or write down what you're going to do for the day. I know we all have calendars and things like that, but the old expression of, when you write something down, it doubles in your mind. You're okay. It sinks in even more. So use some kind of whiteboard or digital whiteboard to get you set for the day to know what you're doing. And then the last thing is, and I think we all use this in our personal lives, is set reminders. Like if you're on if you're blocking out your day, and let's just say you have an hour where you're going to focus on outreach, right? And then after that, you're going to get to your inbound or whatever. That hour for outreach, you have to put the alarm on there, because you know what? When that hour hits, you stop doing outreach. It doesn't bleed into the next hour. You need to transition to what the next thing is, so you can keep getting those micro things done.
I know I can improve that 100% in my life. And I just want to recognize, speaking of outreach, Jim, thank you so much for being here. Inger, thank you so much. Yes, staying in the moment requires our full attention. Are there any, Jim, or do you have any other ideas that are working for you guys? Calendars, reminders, writing it down, all of these things contribute to a successful outcome. And I like the idea of actually put a time limit on a task, but I want to go deeper into that, because, one of the three strategies I was thinking about before we started this show, Rob, was, have a strategy for your outbound efforts, have a strategy for your client commitments, and then have a strategy for your follow-up, and also your connections to your relationships in your network, because all three of those are really, I think, important for us to, kind of package up and think about strategy around that. So outbound strategy, have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, it's just like blindfold darts. You might hit something, right?
Yeah. Oh, you're going to hit something. It's just depending on what you're going to hit. You're going to hit that person getting a beer when they're supposed to be away from the dartboard. No, I think when it comes to the outbound, in terms of a strategy, to keep yourself focused, when you have something where Outbound is all about the prospecting nature, reaching out. So,
Mhm.
we find at Dubb, one of the biggest things to do is if you're reaching to a huge, huge audience, maybe you're doing an email list blast and you're reaching out, you always want to reach out to the mountaintop goal of that niche group that you're reaching out to. You might have a top 20, top 30, whatever the number is, where you're going to individually reach out to those people. So that's where you want to do your research and address them directly. And then for your follow up with these people, because with us here at Dubb, when we do the video, as Russ, as you know, tracking, understanding if they've watched a video, this will direct you to smart actions. Okay, whether it's a smart phone call, whether it's a smart video follow up you make, or whether it's a smart email or text you shoot really quickly based on what they do. And
Yeah.
then with the client communication, like you said, client comm is one of the biggest things you can do. A lot of people put together newsletters. Well, really what newsletters are is really updating your email base or your client base about what the new things are that are happening and what maybe something that you're missing out on that they're currently doing.
Yeah.
Leaning into the community, like you talked about, but leaning into the community, newsletter content, outreach, what's the one thing they all have in common? They've got to have content. They've got to have content. And you've got to lead the content with value. And you do that across the omni-channel approach, then you're going to put yourself in good shape. And being an omni-channel will keep you focused on the strategy at hand. And again, back to the alarms and scheduling. Okay, today's the prospecting. Then I've got to do my follow-up. Then I've got to do my client comm. Then I've got to put some content into the community to bring value. So those are the things that you can set up. And obviously with Dubb, with Russ, that you're an expert on, is the automations and all that good stuff. And you can set all that up. So.
Well, and I love that. And also, Inger said, I use my calendar. If it's not in there, it doesn't happen. I also wrote lists of items I need to accomplish and check them off. I actually have, I occasionally use old school stuff. And, I will use whatever I have available for me at the moment, just to remind myself to put it in my calendar. Because sometimes I'm not in front of my computer, or I may not have, the moment to manage my time in my phone either. But I love those three categories you put together, Rob, is book the time for outreach, and creating content, I think is really, I come in waves. It's like, okay, I have no issue whatsoever sitting down and I can create content. I can create all kinds of content. The thing that I need to really produce better results on, just this me personally, is content that moves people emotionally or intellectually to do something with that content, to actually, like I always do, kindness is cool, smiles are free. And I do that because that's who I am. That's something that I believe in. And I think if we can, have a little bit more kindness in the world and help each other out and support each other, it's a good thing. However, that does not necessarily direct them to my pipeline or booking a call or doing something there. So there's two types of content production. There's the intent, and then there's the visibility. And building visibility and authority is important. However, the content with intent, I think, is also absolutely critical to draw people into understanding what you do, the value you bring, and how you help. So I think it's important for people to recognize those differences, because I have been personally, I've created thousands of pieces of content that lead nobody to anywhere. And that's just my personal story at this point in time.
Well, the thing is, you said intention with content. Well, that all comes down to calls to action as well. When someone sees a piece of content, okay, what do they do now? What do you want that person to do? Like whenever we're doing video coaching with Dubb, one of the biggest things I always say all the time, and most people do this, but it's good for a reminder, at the end of your video when you're making it, by the way, book a time below. Click the button below. See what I'm doing right now with my hand? I'm pointing to below. Click below. It's
and
like
you can go to Book Russ.
Them.
You can go to Book Russ anytime and book a call with me.
right there, right down there. Exactly. But you've got to do that. I know it sounds funny, but you've got to direct them. Like LoveMyDubb.com. Russ, you're the master of that.
Dubb simple. There's a simple sales funnel process that you can go through if you'd like to learn it.
Yep.
And these things, it's not always easy to think about that. It's not always easy to think about the outreach. It's not always easy to think about the communication with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy to, like you said, like the whole point of this conversation is we all get distracted. It's like, okay, squirrel hunter. Oh man, there's this shiny object over here. My phone just rang. We're bombarded by efforts and energy that is going to take us off track. And so we really have to do our due diligence in order to,
well,
make those goals.
We've got to use that energy. I don't know the form of martial arts, but where Ruben would know this better than I, but if force is coming towards you, you use that force and redirect it to where you need to move it. I think, 3 tips in terms of just being able to focus on certain things, I think that could help too. Whenever you're communicating in sales, one, I would say, always make sure whether it's a text, video, whatever the communication is, phone call, make sure it's moving the story forward. It's kind of like when someone writes a screenplay or a book, there's no wasted communication in there. So if you have some kind of automated setup, like an Expandy on LinkedIn or whatever you're doing to send out with your emails and your templates, always make sure that even your initial contact is pushing the next contact forward. So whether it's prospecting, follow-up, or client comp, push the story forward. The second thing is, and this is an old David Mamet expression that I really like, who's a screenwriter, get in late and get out early. So get in there, get right to the point, and then get out and say, hey, book a time or check this out because you've got them interested. And while they're interested, don't linger around. There was an old there was an old Seinfeld episode where George he found out that when he was ending something funny and people were engaged, that's when he left. He's like, okay, I'm out of here. Like, he doesn't want to hang around too long and then reverse everything. So do that. And then the last thing I would say, number 3 is, lean into we always want to understand the why. I mean, with Simon Sinek, right? The why, right? We understand the why, but then we've got to really lean into the how, because the how is going to get us there to explain the why to the person. So really have that focus in terms of what is this person seeing in my content? How is it being delivered? Do I have the proper calls to action? Am I funneling them to the right area so the next thing can happen? So really understand the why, but focus on the how.
I love that. And one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received is I was training a class, teaching a class years ago, and it was in front of management, the executives of the team, and the vice president goes, Russ, cut the embroidery, get to the point. And so it was like bing, ding, 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 ding. Mm-hmm. A great analogy that always reminds me, because I had, we all have at some point in time, have rambled on. And this is something where clarity, be clear, concise, and cut the embroidery, get to the point, and then walk away and know that people are clear on what needs to happen next. They know the goal, they know the action, they know the next step. And I think that's brilliant. So I just want to, Joseph's here. Thank you so much for joining us in. Hey, it's nice to be able to join in. And thank you everyone for being here. I hope that this topic is valuable. I hope that this is bringing some encouragement to know that we're all human. We all have things that we can improve in our lives. And I know that like Joseph, he gets up incredibly early in the morning, does his workout. He's very disciplined and an awesome individual. If you're not connected, everybody on the show today is fantastic. So thank you so much for being here. I want to acknowledge you. And the other thing is attention. And then there are also, Rob, systems. Mm-hmm. And having a system that you can actually rely on that allows you to remove things from your distraction. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot, and this is another thing that I'm going to be vulnerable about. I have occasionally been known to have more than one app open at a time. And so I'm almost allowing or introducing an interruption into my life. And if you're doing a specific task like outreach and you have a system that you're using like Dubb, and you're creating those very personalized introductions and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
You don't have as much opportunity if you close everything else down and just say, hey, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to do outreach for an hour, and I'm going to be very personalized. I'm going to create that personal message. I'm going to put that out there. For my experience, I have received a lot more response and a lot more positive response as a result of having those systems in place. Is that, have you heard and got feedback on that in a similar way?
Yeah, I actually talked to a client about this. It was pretty interesting. But I'll say before I get into that real quick, it's like imagine like the old red sign outside the studio. It says on air, right? Blinks
Yeah.
on air. Well, you're not going to be doing a bunch of other stuff when it says on air. You're focusing with what's going on with your interview, whatever you're doing, right? So this other client that I talked to, he had an app that did this, and everyone could probably look this up. But there are certain apps that will close down other apps while you're working on one app for a certain time frame. Like, in other
Mhm.
words, like it won't let you get into those things while you're focusing on what you're doing. So it's almost like that manager over your shoulder saying, "Look, I know your phone's probably buzzing. I know this is going on, but guess what? You can't access it. So you've got to do this for the next hour and whatever the time frame is." So just do some research on that. I know there's some probably apps out there that'll help you. They won't let you do anything else. You
Yeah.
have to do what you're focusing on. So yeah.
Well, and that's a double-edged sword because it's like, and also another tip that I think is really important for, you can create filters in Google. If you're using Google for mail, you can actually create a filter and you can filter on unsubscribe or, and then delete everything that is on that list that is, it's kind of updates and things that are distracting. And those are
Well, Russ,
cause a huge distraction.
Well, Russ, what you said, filtering is a big thing. I mean, Ruben and I have talked about this recently a lot, where filtering in the world is going to be where a lot of things go. Incoming messages, how they're being delivered, are they filtered to certain folders automatically by an app? So I think a lot of the times we've got to be. It's like a class in multitasking. Like, remember when you were like, a kid and you looked up to like your adults or someone you knew, like, "Man, how are you doing all that? You're going to pick up the kids and you're going to go do this and you're doing that and you're answering the phone, like all this stuff, right? Or you got multiple things going on. We couldn't be juggling more balls at a time now in the history of the world than we are currently.
Oh,
So
it's
I
insane.
feel that we've got to recognize what the balls are, though. We can't ignore them. You know what I mean? So I feel
Mhm.
like we're all in a big training class on like how to understand how to do this. And I think we're constantly evolving with it and understanding when we need to take a look and when we don't. So I think we're all learning still.
Yeah. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Joe. He's from Caffeina, uh, my favorite water drink, a little bit of caffeine in there, and also, incredibly pure water. It's just, it's my favorite. I'm going to order some more from Amazon. But we've had conversations about this, and his focus is very, very focused on what his goals are, and we've gone back and forth on that. And I just want to mention that. And also, Joseph earlier I talked about gets up early, 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and he gets to the gym and he does his thing and he starts his day, and he's not distracted by a lot of people at that time of day. So I'm sure he gets a lot accomplished. So fewer distractions and work it into your work schedule. And that's another strategy that also works. I doubt that a lot of people are going to answer their phone at 2:30 in the morning. However, you've got a lot of other things going on, Joe. So thank you so much for being here. I love that you're here. Howard Kaufman, ORL. He's a genius in the product development for ORL and mouthwash and mouth care. He's extremely focused as well. I love this conversation, Rob, because I think it's important for people to really understand that, hey, we're all human. We're all able to improve and generate some new habits that actually can develop into better results. And that's what it's all about, is taking, this idea that, okay, I'm not as organized as I need to be. That doesn't mean that you're not able to be organized as you need to be. It just means that you're going through a process. And I love the concept that we can actually take bite-sized pieces and create and develop them a little further and where we're going. And that's why I love Dubb, is because it helps me build a system that requires me to go through that system and allows me the feedback and how I can actually help more people. So,
And it's about segmenting, Russ. It's about segmenting. I mean, think about like
mm,
how we all want to segment our lists. Who are the niches that we're reaching out to? That's what we do with Dubb with our presets, our customized backgrounds. Who are
yeah,
we speaking to? Am I in real estate? Okay, I'm talking to sellers. I'm talking to buyers. Segment your list and then segment your day. That's
yeah.
really how you can focus on these different areas.
Well, and I know you and Ruben have talked about it on the Rev Show. And if you want to catch the Rev Show, it's on YouTube/Dubb app. Ruben and Rob talk about some extremely valuable points that allow people to actually accelerate their business, clear their head and make sure that things are taking place in their life. So I encourage you to go subscribe, like and subscribe, comment, and leave a Dubb comment. I left a Dubb comment a while ago, and I was like, okay, I'll check this out. I'll experiment. I'll experiment with this. So it's really cool. So it's like Joseph said, it's yeah, what's what I'm talking about. Boom, let's connect. So connections, being here and actually producing outcomes is what we're all about with Dubb. And I love the fact that you're there. And also, I think that there's an opportunity here. I want to make sure that everybody understands that if you use my affiliate link to sign up, which is right down below here, it's in the filler. If you use the affiliate link, send me a message, DM me, and I'll book a strategy session on how you can actually utilize this and how you can actually produce results using Dubb in your business. I've developed several ideas. I've developed several funnels, courses, strategies. And if I can't come up with a strategy for your business, I know a few more people that we can recruit. So it's like, it's amazing what we can do with building systems, filtering out noise, and building strategies that we can do for your business. So I just love this. And Rob, I just want to make sure that we wrap this up with some words of wisdom, nuggets of knowledge, and whatever we can add to it.
The big thing I always tell everyone is it's one step at a time. I mean, we seriously, like now more than ever, it's literally one step at a time. If you're someone out there being like, oh my God, what's a sales funnel? Listen, learn it one step at a time. Russ is the person to teach you.
Yeah.
If you're out there wondering, oh, I've never been on camera before, I've never been on video, just start one step at a time. If you're out there and you feel unfocused and overwhelmed, take it one step at a time. What is the first thing you're going to do in that first hour morning block? So lean into your focus, lean into your why, but then really define the how.
And I just encourage you to take that advice and don't beat yourself up. Don't punish yourself. Don't feel like you're the only one going through this process. I've produced over 1,000 shows, podcasts. I've been doing this for over a decade now. And trust me, I've made all of the mistakes anyone can make in this process. And we really, really have to think about the progress. Every experiment turns into experience. So we can actually have that journey. We can have that understanding of what works and what may not work for us. And sometimes that evolves. So Rob, thank you so much for being here. I really love the opportunity to have this conversation. I think it's important knowledge to share, and we'll continue this every Wednesday at 12:15 Pacific Standard Time. I'll be here. I'll be introducing ideas and concepts because I love my Dubb. Go down below in the link. So content with intention. Did you catch that?
Then take action. Content with intention, and then take action.
Take action. So go to Book Russ, and let's do this thing. So Rob,
thanks for having me, Russ. I really appreciate it. You're the man. You got words of wisdom, and you're a wonderful teacher. So
always an adventure. And until next time, everybody, we do this because kindness is cool and smiles are free, and we want you to enjoy your day. See you
Bye,
next
everybody.
time.